The Rockets are ready, and we're ready to welcome in Mike Robinson. You see him all the time here on BCSN. Of course, he's the sideline reporter on the Rocket Radio Network. Mike Rob, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Let's talk about this Rocket team. A lot of familiar faces from last season, and considering how last season went, that's a very good thing for Jason Candle.
Absolutely, and if you're a Rocket fan in general, just being able to see this team coming back to defend that MAC title, that's something that Jason Candle has not done. Put that on the list of things that he definitely wants. And of course, Daquan Finn want to see that happen because this team is loaded with talent on both sides of the football, and they're bringing back so much experience that gives you this hope that they're going to come and knock this thing out. But the first thing they got to do is take care of Illinois.
We'll talk about the Fighting Illini in a moment. Let's talk a little bit more about Daquan Finn.
Yeah.
We saw what he could do last year, what Daquan could do. He made a big name for himself. We know his athleticism. He talked a lot about in the offseason about just trying to take that next step. Perfection is kind of what he's out for this year. What have you seen from him so far?
You know, so far what you're seeing is a maturity level. You know, you see he's relaxed a little bit more. He's not as, tense or tight. You know, a lot of people would say that he's kind of meek and shy. He's come out of his shell. He know who he is. He know what he's about. And he's also proved it to everybody with his actions. So being a clear-cut leader, now in year 2 of that, you can see that he's just ready to just go out and lead his teams. And other people are fearful of that as well because he just can do so many different things that hurt you with his legs and his arms. And I'm sure that Coach Candle got his IQ up this summer too.
One of the things from last year was the offensive line. There's injuries up and down that O-line. They had to put a lot of different pieces together. Much healthier this year, and some of that experience from last year is certainly going to help the offensive line this season.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, obviously one of the big key pieces to bring back is Springfield owns Tyler Long. Tyler Long coming back into that lineup. You know, they missed him early in the season. They also missed one of our other big guys out here from St. John's. I mean, you're missing your top guys up front. You learn guys in the back, your 7th and your 8th and your 9th offensive linemen. They finally got to step into play, and they got to step up to the plate because in college football, it's next man up. Now they got their whole roster. They got a few imports in their transfer portal to bolster up that offensive line. So they're going to be really solid up front and probably better than they've been in the past few years.
Yeah, you mentioned Mitch Berg, the offensive lineman from St. John's. Jason Candle has always done a good job of recruiting Toledo. Who are some of the other Toledo, Northwest Ohio guys that you expect to make an impact for the Rockets this season?
I mean, I'm not sure if they'll make an impact this season as far as the young guys, but, definitely want to highlight, Connor Waltonzak. Waltonzak is one of the top young guys who could see some playing time. If he does, I won't be surprised. Let's just say that. But if he doesn't, they're just trying to hold him back so he can have his full time under the sun because he's just that special. And then you also look at Caden Holmes, another young guy. Bryson Hammer from Springfield. Fremont Ross. So having those guys just kind of waiting in the wings, you're looking for them. But you also got reason over who's going to step up in the back half on that secondary and get some tick.
Let's talk about the defensive line and the Whitmer guy, Butler. He's starting to move his way up the depth chart as well. He can make an impact on the interior part.
Kevon Butler was a big impact on the line before he got hurt last season. He was making a lot of strides, and then the injury kind of slowed them down. And that's kind of an injury bug thing that the Rockets had on the defensive side of the football. But now they're coming back healthy. But Kevon Butler, he is dominant up front. He's really handsy. He reminds me of Marquise Moore, a former Panther, doing the same thing he did on that defensive line, quick, athletic, and tough.
Next line back defensively, Dallas Gant. He talked about a guy who's comfortable. He has been playing college football for 6 years now. Began at Ohio State and is right at home now with the Rockets.
And just listening to his interviews and what he talks about, he feels very comfortable in that Rocket uniform in the locker room with those guys. But more importantly, what you see is the size of Dallas Gant. This guy is a huge individual. Today I decided to size him up. Leaving out the press conference, I said, Dallas, I just got to size you up. I stood up to him, looked him up and down and said, yeah, this guy's NFL ready. He's got the frame, he's got the size, but more importantly, he's smart enough to make the plays. He's never really in the wrong gap. He makes other guys right, and that is the key to this Rockets defense is having glue guys like that in the middle of it.
Another key in the back end, Quinyon Mitchell.
Quinyon Mitchell, Maxon Hook, Bauer, Ford. This secondary is really elite. McDonald. So, with the experience in that back half, they got a lot of depth. This Rockets secondary is probably one of the best in the country. And that's just not just saying it, but statistically on paper. You got guys who can fly up and make plays in the backfield, i.e. Maxon Hook. And Quinyon Mitchell, as humble as he can be, he sits on the outside and teams don't want to test him, kind of like a Sauce Williams type of kid. So this is what Sauce Gardner, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Hot Sauce Williams in Cleveland. I'm thinking about food. But anyway, more importantly, this is a really good back half of a secondary, and they can lock down and man, but more importantly, they do a really good job of mixing up zone.
All right, let's talk about the season opener. They head to Illinois, taking on a Big Ten foe. Toledo's had some success against Big Ten in years past. Illinois, perhaps a contender out in the West, but I think a lot of people are looking at this as a very winnable game for the Rockets if everything goes right.
You know, listening to their press conference today and listening to Coach Henry on their second for the defensive coordinator for Illinois, the one thing that he's concerned about is DQ. He said they have never played against a quarterback as dynamic as he is, where he can get outside. He highlighted the Ohio State game, what he did versus the top in the Big Ten. He said this is something that we have to be concerned about. He said besides his twins keeping him up at night is DQ. So you understand that the Rockets are looking forward to stepping up to this challenge because they really have an opportunity to win.
Another group of people looking forward to this game, the Newton family. Jawan Newton, the receiver for the Rockets. His brother, Johnny, is a really good defensive lineman for Illinois. They've never played against each other. They will on Saturday. A lot of the family's going to be there watching them.
You know, and that's just the coolest story of this whole thing because football is about family. And then whenever you can get those two guys on the field, you see the Kelsey brothers in the NFL getting on the field together and just seeing what it does. The parents get the half and half jersey going on. That stuff is special, you know, and that's what makes the stories of this game, you know, and that's what makes us enjoy the game of football is the little things that makes it great. So more important for that family. So I'm looking forward for that for them.
All right, thank you very much, Mike Robinson. Of course, the full-length conversation available on the BCSN YouTube page. We've got a lot more College Football Weekly on the way. Mike Rob, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Mark.